Let me introduce our first speaker under the Infrastructure and Growth Leadership pillar, and that's Dr. Jennifer Jurado, Director of Broward County's Environmental Planning and Community Resilience Division, talking about Seeds of Change, and she obviously brings her own fan club, so that's awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here today and to talk to you about a subject with which I suppose there's some familiarity, water. We've seen plenty of it over the last couple of days, but to talk about it in a little bit different context as it relates to infrastructure in our community. As many of you know, we are surrounded by water. It has shaped our landscape and driven our economy. It's probably one of our most precious resources, but it's also our next big challenge. As we know from Maslow's basic hierarchy of needs, there are certain basic human needs that must be met in order for people to be able to achieve higher levels of growth that are fundamental to our 6 pillars of development, economic prosperity, and quality of life. Some of these include clean water to drink, a healthy environment overall, and the safety of family, resources, and property. So with these goals in mind, during the last 100 years, we've worked to build a livable, vibrant Broward County by first working to achieve these goals through systems that support flood protection, that provide water for our 1.8 million residents and businesses, and that protect the environment. In fact, our overall need to manage water in pursuit of social and economic progress led us to create an elaborate system of canals, more than 1,800 miles in length, that provide drainage and flood control for our community. Our water utilities and municipalities today collectively treat and distribute more than 220 million gallons per day of water to provide our community. And we intensely analyze rainfall distributions and probabilities to develop flood maps that guide our planning and infrastructure design. And all of this is based essentially on 100 years of historic condition and experience. But the time has come for a resilient redesign in our systems and our landscape. Conditions are changing, and they are going to continue to change. You might wonder, well, where are these changes occurring and what are the impacts? We know regionally sea level has risen 9 inches in the last 100 years. And across Broward County, the evidence confronts us. As a result of sea level rise, we are seeing salt water move towards our coastal drinking water wells at an ever-increasing rate. Because of our porous geology, some of our communities are already seeing increases in groundwater elevations. It affects the function of drainage wells and explains why even smaller rainfall events are increasing flooding. During high tide events, salt water causes coastal flooding, and this is occurring more frequently, it's more prolonged and widespread. Salt water backs up through our stormwater systems that prevents the drainage of rainfall runoff, and even our most inland communities are vulnerable because ultimately the ability to discharge floodwaters to tide will be challenged as ocean levels rise higher than the canal levels themselves. We're also seeing more severe rainfall events occurring during our historically dry winter months. So, despite these highly visible changes in our physical environment, we still perceive climate impacts as being some abstract condition that will occur at some future point in time. We fail to overlook the gradual erosion and system function and drainage protection in our water supplies that's occurring today. And in order to protect our economy and quality of life, we need to learn to manage water in new and creative ways. Individuals, our residents, our businesses, they're already making individual investment decisions based upon the increased exposure to flood damage and economic loss. I had one business owner who shared with me a $40,000 insurance claim as a result of high tide flooding. I had another who shared with me revisited plans for relocating a regional headquarters to a desired Broward location because of increased high tide flooding. And homeowners are they're expressing the concerns about these same factors, high tide flooding as it relates to planned renovations and additions. And personally, I just was reminded this just a week ago, some of the parents at my children's school. So these conversations are taking place. So what's required in order to safeguard our community, our economy, our way of life? Resiliency requires a systems approach. It isn't achieved with a single building or seawall, but it's our collective treatment of buildings and infrastructure. We can't just be investing in additional fill and a rising and elevated seawall if we're still seeing the same roadways impacted during high tides and the properties, the target property, adjacent properties continue to be flooded. Or think about improvements in roadway drainage. I know there are some major roadways that have been plagued by flooding and drainage was essentially non-existent. And while the roads have been retrofitted or improved, there wasn't a collective treatment of drainage needs for adjacent businesses or the immediate communities. So those are opportunities that are lost. And we see today that water still sits on the parking of these adjacent businesses week after week during the cycle of summer storms. So what will happen to these properties and countless other similar sites across our community as drainage systems continue to lose capacity, groundwater levels continue to rise, and storms grow more intense? Now, fortunately, a lot of advancements are being made. In Broward County, we are investing in some of the most advanced hydrologic models to inform our planning decisions. We are pursuing regional water supply projects that will serve to enhance and diversify our water supplies. And we're also working with neighboring counties and municipalities on climate adaptation plans. And these efforts are bringing extensive resources to Broward County and to Southeast Florida. While we will continue to plan, though, we also need to begin to act by integrating resiliency in all of our planning and project decisions. We need to make more room for water. It is our chance to lead, to demonstrate innovation and creativity through investments that support long-term resiliency, enhanced levels of service, and robust economic development. These opportunities exist with each and every planning and development decision. Design with the community and region in mind, not just the project. Think about systems integration and shared infrastructure. How can we increase flexibility in operations and enhance that level of service? And celebrate higher design standards. Those are marketable investments that support economic stability and robust economic development. We have expertise available in our community, through our regional agencies, through our academic partners, and in our consulting community. Ask questions, reach out to those experts, to the neighboring communities early in the planning process. Together, we have the capacity to meet this challenge. It is our chance now to lead, coordinate, and focus as we pursue resilient redesign in our building of a better Broward. Thank you, and I hope you'll be our partners.
You got to get this right if you're going to do this. You can't have enough talent, you can't have enough places. If we don't get this water issue right, it is absolutely going